we're going to talk about the covenant love. See, if you understand the covenant love, you will understand God and the Bible very deeply. It is the plot line of all plot lines in the Bible. Covenant love is such a beautiful concept that this postmodern world cannot understand, as there is no proper category for this word anymore. There is no modern word for this word covenant. You cannot simplify it. You cannot make it modern. What is a covenant love? See, a covenant love is a relationship more loving and intimate than a legal relationship, more binding and enduring and accountable than merely a personal relationship. Moses talked about God's covenant love before his death. In Exodus 19:5, it says, "Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine." That's God telling to the Israelites that if you keep my covenant, you will be my treasured possessions. In Exodus chapter 6, verse 7, Moses says, again, talking about God said this to Israelites, "I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God. And you shall know that I am the Lord your God, who has brought you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians." See the language used here. I will be your God. You shall be my people, my treasured possession. This is called personal possessive pronouns. It shows the intimate relationship. Whenever someone says in a conversation, "my John" or my Susan, they are referring to personal possessive pronouns. They are using personal possessive pronouns. It's a language of love and intimacy. And God is using that language when he talks about covenant love, that you will be my treasured possession, I'll be your God. And it is not just a language of love. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 29. It says, "If you carefully follow the terms of this covenant, so that you may prosper in everything you do." Terms of this covenant, it's a language of law. See, a covenant comes with terms. It's a stunning blend of law and love. It's stunning because it's a personal relationship made more loving and intimate, because it's legal through voluntary, mutual, binding promises and vows to be loving and to be faithful no matter what the circumstances are. See, modern society doesn't have a category for this word covenant, because it is focused on individual happiness, individual fulfillment, and it is focused on the self rather than the other person. The modern world, the love is defined by this: I will be what I should be, as long as and to the degree you are what you should be. That's how we define love in this modern world. But the covenant love, it defines love like this: I will be what I should be, whether you are what you should be or not. No matter how you behave, I'm going to be how I should behave. See, it's totally different. It's completely opposite than what this postmodern world is understanding about love. And it's scary to get into a covenant. It only works when both people in the covenant say that. I give you my independence. I give you a part of myself. It's far more deep and profound love. See, but people in this day and age, they don't want covenant love. We want personal relationship with God, but not covenantal love. What do I mean by that? You want to keep God at a distance. You don't want to commit to anything. You don't want God to take up your independence. We reserve a part of us to ourselves. It won't work with God. You cannot relate to God without a covenant love. A covenant is more than a contract, but not less. See, in the Bible, if you meet the conditions of the covenant, there are blessings. In Deuteronomy 29, when, the verse we read earlier, if you carefully follow the terms of this covenant so that you may prosper in everything you do. And then if you fail the terms of this covenant, there are penalties. Again, in the Bible says, talking about covenant, the Lord will never be willing to forgive them. His wrath and zeal will burn against them. All the curses written in this book will fall on them. See, those are the terms It's scary indeed. If you follow it, if you meet the conditions, there are blessings. If you fail, there are penalties. It's scary. But why? Why do we need to go to that length for a covenant love? See, covenant love is a blend of love and law. You cannot have one or the other in a sin-filled world. If we have only love from God, we become too liberal. We take His love for granted and we sin more, saying God is too loving to punish me. God will not send anyone to hell. On the other hand, if we take the aspect of law, only law in the covenant love, we become too conservative. We become critical of everyone and everything. We condemn everyone and become a religious fanatic. See, all of us fall into one of these two categories. Either too liberal or too conservative, relativism or moralism, being a Pharisee or a Sadducee. And this is the problem with the current world. We either fall into one of these categories, guilt-ridden, because we see God as a just God. Or we go to the other extreme. I can live the way I want to. God will love me anyway. And both are wrong. If we understand God in only one aspect, it's wrong. And that's a problem. If God has only one of these attributes, either a loving God or a just God in a sinful world, we cannot survive both scenarios. If God is a righteous judge, we'll be crushed to death in His anger. If there is no love in God, we'll be eviscerated to death. We'll be condemned to die with no hope. The consequences of not meeting God's law is brutal and we cannot withstand it. If God is only love but not a judge, we'll become more and more sinful, taking His love for granted. And that will put us into more and more misery. Therefore, the solution is to have both. Moreover, because of sin in this world, the human heart is corrupt and always finds a way to breach this law of covenant. The more deeper the love is, the more deeper the need for loyalty in this world. That's why if a friendship breaks, it won't cause as much hurt as when a marriage breaks. The more deeper the love is, the more deeper the need for loyalty. Also, the more deeper the pain if that loyalty and trust is broken. In a sinful world, it is not possible to keep the loyalty and trust. Therefore, there must be some guardrails to keep the love. And that's where the law comes. And that's the covenant love. In a covenant love, if you love the other person wholeheartedly and deeply, and you get to enjoy the blessings of that love. That's a concept of marriage. The pleasures of marriage comes with responsibility. If you're faithful and loving and caring, you get to enjoy the pleasures of being married to your lover within the bounds of the marriage. On the other hand, if you are not faithful, if you abuse that love, there are consequences. You may need to face the consequences of your unfaithfulness. Marriage is a man-made covenant, and it's a shadow of God's covenant love. Man's love is imperfect, and man's justice is imperfect. If a man-made covenant has consequences, God-made covenant has more. God is perfect in love and justice. So you can see the purest form of love, purest form of covenant love in God. The blessings of a covenant love with God are huge and amazing. God said in the scripture, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That's one of the blessings of covenant love. Likewise, there are so many blessings if you read the book of Deuteronomy. But God also said, I will never forgive you if you fail the covenant. All the curses in the law will fall on them. Wow, this is huge. The blessings are huge, and the penalties are huge. And does God contradict here? Is God contradicting Himself? Because on the one hand, He's saying, I will never leave you nor forsake you. On the other hand, God is saying, I will never forgive you if you fail the covenant. What's the right answer here? Is God contradicting Himself? The answer is no. And this is what a biblical scholar call it as perceivably irreconcilable tension, irresolvable tension. On one side, God is committed to loving us no matter what. On the other hand, He is committed to punish people who sin no matter what. Perceivably irreconcilable tension. irresolvable tension. The problem with the church today is people hold on to either this or the other. But God said, I am a just God and also loving God. So we need to enter into a covenant love. We need to enter into terms. This means there will be penalties for missing the mark, blessings for following it. And where was this covenant made? Where did God take this oath of covenant? Because in a covenant love, an oath need to be taken. We need to go all the way back to Genesis 15. God made the covenant with Abraham. It's a really, really amazing, astounding incident. If you understand the depth of this passage, God asked Abraham to cut some animals into two and arrange the halves opposite each other in a row, in a parallel row. You may think this is crazy, but this is how covenants are made in those days. Especially if a servant wants to make an oath to his master, the servant will be asked to go through the animal pieces arranged opposite each other. It's as though saying, if I don't keep my promise, may I be like these animals, may I be torn to pieces. What's astounding in this incident is this: Abram was expecting God to ask him to go through this, but what happened was amazing. Thick darkness came and God went through those pieces. This was never a custom. In the ancient custom between the Lord and the servant, the Lord will never go through such custom, but only the servant. But in this case, God went through this, as though He's saying, if I don't keep my promises, I will be torn to pieces. I'm ready to be torn to pieces. But the most beautiful part was, Abraham was never called to go through this. Abraham must have been waiting. Okay, next it's going to be my turn. God is asking me to go through this so that I can make my oath to God. But Abraham was never called to go through this. It's as though God saying, I will take the oath on behalf of you. And God went through this both on behalf of God and Abraham and his descendants. As the God saying, if you don't keep your promises, I won't mind losing my immortality and be torn to pieces. I'm ready to be torn to pieces. See, God was making a promise, an oath for both of them. Not only I will be torn to pieces if I don't keep my promises, I'll be torn to pieces if you don't keep your promises. God did this because He knew that none of us could keep the law of the covenant. God knew that we'll all miserably fail. But God did not want us to bear the consequences of it. And where did God meet the consequences of man failing the covenant? 2,000 years later, on Mount Calvary, thick darkness came. Just like thick darkness came when God took the oath. God, in the person of Jesus, God in flesh, was torn to pieces with nails in His hands, and His back was ripped open by flogging and thorns on His head. He was taking the covenant curse. This is why Paul wrote, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone who's hung on a pole. He redeemed us in order that the blessing given to Abraham might come to the Gentiles through Jesus Christ, so that by faith we might receive the promise of the Spirit. See, this is the ultimate blend of law and love. Jesus Christ redeemed us in order that the blessing given to Abraham might come to us through His death. Christ fulfilled the conditions of the law so God can love us unconditionally. The death of Christ fulfilled the curse of the covenant, and that leaves the blessings for you and me. Do you understand how beautiful covenant love is and how God fulfilled it for us? When we understand it, we'll be full of gratitude. Friends, this is love at its finest and fullest form. This is the fundamental behind the gospel. We love Him because He loved us first. I hope that's an encouragement for you. Thanks for watching, and God bless.